Potency drugs not under NDP Act. So sexual enhancement drug containing herbs and medicine not covered under the narcotics drugs. It's also known NDPS Act prohibit any individual from engaging in any activity consisting production, cultivation, sale, purchase, transport, storage and consumption of narcotic drugs. From medical point of view, psychotropic chemical substance that act upon mind, that is conscious, unconscious mental life. So narcotics include the substance that cause the stupor, muscular relaxation and reduction or eliminate the sensitivity. EWS Quota, a government committee report in the Supreme Court. Income is a feasible criteria. So the committee led agree to the notion. Union government has mechanically adopted 8 lakh number because it was also used OBC creamy layer. It said that income criteria was more stringent and EWS criteria led to the financial. So 8 lakh criteria for EWS include all sources including farming, and the report is result Supreme Court related to ruling of the government since October explain how it's in the figure 8 lakh as the annual income criteria, and forward classes society for grant 10% reservation national eligibility come entrance stage NEET medical admission all India quota. NEET is the Union Education Minister's Skill Development Ministry launched a single platform to provide best developed edtech solution course student. NEET is game changer. Now protection of women. This all we discussed I think yesterday. Now we are going to discuss the geography. This also we discussed. Nahi talim and all that. Science. Yeah, international relationship we are going to discuss now. Arc de Triomphe Monument. It's a French authority took down a temporary installation of European Union flag from Arc de Triomphe Monument in Paris after right-wing opponent President Emmanuel Macron accused him of erasing the French identity. The giant blue flag was raised in place of French flag on New Year. France turned at the rotating presidency, so the Arc de Triomphe is the one of the most famous monument of Paris, France. It honors those who fought and died for the French Revolutionary and Napoleonic War with the name of the French victory and general. Pekongso is the China's constructing bridge in the eastern Ladakh connecting the north and south bank of the Pekongso, which will significantly bring down the time for the People Liberation Army to promote the troops and equipment between the two. So bridge is the China territory and the India Army would have to factor this operational plan. Pekongso is the lake and endorheic lake spanning eastern Ladakh and West Tibet. It is divided into the sub-lake called Pekongso and Nyakso and Ramso Nyakso. It's approximately 50% length of the overall lake and Tibet, China, 40% of Ladakh. It is disputed as de facto buffer zone between India and China. During winter, the lake freeze completely landlocked. Now, nuclear weapon. 5 global nuclear power pledged to prevent the atomic weapon. So it's rare joint statement ahead review the nuclear treaty. So the UN Security Council, China, France, Russia, UK, France, USA strongly believe that further spread of such weapon must be prevented. And the statement issued after the latest review treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapon. The statement comes and tension between the Russia and United States have reached height rarely since Cold War over the troops built up by the Moscow close to the Ukraine border. That the raised fear of Russia is running a new attack on the pro-Western neighbors, and the rise of China meanwhile has also raised the concern that tension with USA. Free trade agreement. Recently, Union Minister for Commerce and Industry looking to have a free trade agreement with UAE, the UK, Australia, Canada, and Israel. So its free trade agreement is UAE, UK, Australia, Canada, and Israel. So FTA also called the regional trade agreement and pact between two or more nations to reduce trade barrier import and export. Under the free trade policy, goods and services can be bought and sold across international border with little or no government tariff. quota, subsidy, and prohibition to inhibit their exchange. The concept of free trade is opposite of trade protectionism and economic isolation. So FTA implemented by the mean of formal mutual agreement for nation involved. A free trade policy may simply be absence of any trade restriction, and there is two type of trade agreement: bilateral, multilateral. FTA example of the bilateral and multilateral trade agreement are agreement among three or more country and are most difficult negotiate agree. FTA determine the tariff, duty, and country impose on imports and export. It goal reducing the eliminating the trade barrier. Trincomalee oil tank farm, making the major milestone strategy project. Sri Lanka India Oil Corporation subsidiary Lanka Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and Government of Sri Lanka have signed a treaty lease agreement. Trincomalee oil tank farm in eastern Sri Lanka. The move firm up India's role in the project discussed in time of Indo-Lanka Accord, and Trincomalee is the Muslim, Tamil, and Sinhalese people. So Trincomalee post-war year, it is emerged as a favored destination for suffer from around the world, gradually transforming with push restoration. So it's a fine natural harbor, crucial location for Trincomalee remains spotlight of potential transit point international trade. Collective Security Treaty Organization. Moscow-led military alliance dispatched troops to help calm mounting unrest in Kazakhstan as police. So energy-rich Kazakhstan is facing its biggest crisis, protests, rising fuel price. So Kazakhstan being regarded as one of the most stable Soviet Republic of Central Asia, and under increase of pressure, Kazakhstan President Jomar Tokayev appealed to Russia-dominated Collective Security Treaty Organization to combat the terrorist group. And the Collective Security Treaty Organization (CETO) is the intergovernmental military alliance Eurasian that consists select post-Soviet states. So member is Armenia, Russia, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Belarus. Headquarter is CETO is the Moscow in Russia. So it's a military exercise dispatched troop to help calm mounting unrest. Kazakhstan is a police that dozen were killed trying to storm guarding during first Colombo Security Conclave. The first Colombo Security Conclave virtual workshop on the developing region cyber security capability on defensive operation deep dark web handling the digital forensic was hosted National Security Council Secretary in association with National Forensic Science University Gandhidham and the Secretary of the Colombo. Delegate will be the State Colombo Security Conclave, including the Sri Lanka, Maldives, India, Mauritius, Seychelles, and Bangladesh participated in the workshop. Member of observer state had agreed on four-pillar cooperation and maritime safety, security, terrorism, radicalization, trafficking, organized crime, cybercrime, protection of critical infrastructure. The decision to establish the Colombo Security Conclave taken in November at the NSC level meeting of India, Sri Lanka, Maldives foster the cooperation and collaboration of maritime and security matter among the Indian Ocean country. The idea of Colombo Security Conclave initiated by the President Gotabaya. So it's the Colombo Security Conclave virtual workshop on the developing regional cyber security capability on defensive operation, deep dark web, handling the digital forensic, and hosted recently. India passport rank improved to 83. India passport power has improved this quarter compared to Japan and Singapore top the index. India passport rank improved to 83 from 90. So Japan and Singapore has the top index. India ranked 83 position in the Henley Passport Index, climbing 7 place from the 19th rank of last year. Since Henley Passport Index rank world passport according to the number of destination their holders can access without prior visa and is based on the data from the International Air Transport Association. India now has visa free access to 60 destinations. Oman, Armenia, and India has added 35 more destinations. Overall, increase the growing disparity between countries in the global north and global south. So in India, passport rank improved to 83 from the 19. It's a Japan and Singapore top the index, and India ranked the 83 position in Henley Passport Index, climbing 7 position 19. So China-Iran agreement. China world begin implementation strategic agreement with the Iran, strengthening the economic and political cooperation between two countries. The China condemned the USA sanction on Iran. China and Iran signed the agreement with a wide-ranging partnership set to span area including the energy, security, infrastructure, communication. China, Iran, leading trade partner, one of the biggest buyer of country oil, and US President Donald Trump reimposed the sweeping unilateral sanction. China has officially stopped importing of oil, but unless Iranian crude is continue to enter the country, risks imports. So the agreement is also significant because talks continue to Vienna over the potential deal halt Iran development of nuclear weapon, and agree by Iran, US, China, Russia, Britain, France, Germany offered Iran sanction relief, exchange curb its nuclear program, and US withdrawal from agreement, reimposing sanction and prompting Iran to begin rolling back to its commitment. INS Ranveer. It's a Navy personnel killed, 11 injured. Expansion destroyer Ranveer in the Mumbai 4th Rajput class destroyer. India-Denmark cooperation on green fuel. India and Denmark agreed to initiate the research development on green fuel, green hydrogen during the science and technology meeting. The joint committee discussed national strategy priorities, development of science and technology, and a special focus of green solution, future strategy for investment to the green research, technology and innovation. The committee emphasized development of bilateral collaboration on mission-driven research, innovation, technology development, as agreed to Prime Minister, adopting green strategic partnership. India-Israel Industrial R&D Technologia Innovation Fund. India and Israel deliberated on widening the scope of India's industrial R&D and technological innovation. They approved 3 joint R&D projects, 5.5 million, and suggested measures to create a broader India-Israel collaboration. India-Israel Industrial R&D Technological Innovation Fund is cooperation between the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, and the Israel Innovation Authority to promote, facilitate, support joint industrial R&D project between the company from India and Israel to address the challenge in the agreed focus sector, to promote, facilitate, support joint industrial R&D between India and Israel would lead to the co-development and commercialization of innovative technology benefit both countries. Global Innovation Technology Alliance (GITA). Global Innovation Technology Alliance is the implement program by the Israel Innovation Authority. So, inauguration of social housing unit project in Mauritius. Main Prime Minister respective country jointly inaugurated social housing for Mauritius. Implementing is a part of vibrant development partnership India and Mauritius. Prime Minister also laid foundation to other projects undertaken as a part of construction of a state-of-art civil service college and PV farm. Solar PV farm. So agreement for the extension of civil service college and solar PV farm. Metro Express in the Mauritius, another infrastructure project. MOU implemented small development projects. Despite the challenges posed by COVID-19, Mauritius Development Partnership Project have progressed, and India Mauritius close in the common history and ancestry, culture, language. This is reflected privileged development partnership between the two countries. Mauritius being a key development partner of India, Indian Ocean, India economic package to execute 5 priority projects identified Government of Mauritius, and these were Metro Express project, Supreme Court building, a new ENT hospital, supply digital tablet, primary school, social housing with the inauguration social housing project, all have the profile under the SAPE. Now first India Central Asia Summit. So Central Asia is the video conference. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. Trade, connectivity, building, develop partnership, enhancing cultural people-to-people contacts. A number of global and regional development increase between the region may propose. India hope to build the trilateral working group Chabar, Iran, Uzbekistan. Connectivity. Central Asia is the region. Asia stretches from the Caspian Sea west to China, Mongolia, and it includes the former Soviet Republic, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. Okay, now India-Oman defense relationship. Oman top defense Mohammad Nasser is an official visit to Delhi. Co-chair Joint Military Cooperation Committee. India Defense Secretary is the highest forum for the engagement between the India and Oman field of defense and evaluate the provide guideline to the overall framework of defense exchange. So it's expected to manually but could not organize when meeting. Oman is India's closest defense partner. Gulf region of important anchor for India defense strategic and defense cooperation pillar for the robust India-Oman strategy partnership defense exchange guided by the framework of MOU. Oman is the country, the Gulf region, and the three-nation India Armed Force bilateral exercise, and Oman also provides the critical cooperation support to Indian naval development in the Arabian and anti-piracy missions. Oman also actively participate Indian Ocean Naval Symposium and Indian Ocean Naval Symposium series of biennial meetings. Forum increase maritime security, discuss regional maritime security friendly relationship among the states. Now next is miscellaneous. Horn of Africa. It's a China would appoint a special envoy to Horn of Africa, signaling China's intention to play a greater role. So it is a peninsula situated the African continent. Horn of Africa is the Gulf of Aden, located at near to the projection of Africa, ancient medieval periods. So it's the country enclosing the Horn of Africa is the Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, and Somalia. And medieval periods, the area was called the Bilab al-Barbar, meaning of land of Berbers. India first open rock museum, Hyderabad. So it's a different part of India, age ranging from 3.3 billion. So big earth data occupy the strategic high around the era of knowledge economy. India is the fully exploiting new frontier, contributing to advancement of art. Veer Bal Divas, it's a honor of supreme sacrifice made by Shibjada Jorabdar Singh. Thiruvalluvar Day. It's a Thiruvalluvar, commonly known the Vallur, was a celebrated Tamil poet and philosopher best known for the author of Thiruvalluvar Thirukural, a collection of couplets of ethics, political, economical matter and love. In Kanyakumari, Padma Award, Shanti Devi, on voice of poor and underprivileged, known for the eradication of and chronic bacterial infections of the poor for nearly 6 decades. So it's a Padma Award, Shanti Devi, for its dedication to her life, education, upliftment of tribal girl, Shanti Devi. Rafael Nadal is the history becoming the tennis player 24 major. Rafael is the relentless journey. So organize the tennis played International Tennis Federation world governing body. So single opponent between two teams like Rafael Nadal is the main history by becoming the first male tennis player ever reached 21 majors. 21 majors he done. 21 slams even history of 21 slam. Female leadership, polity and governance. So the lack of expression of women in the parliament panel examining a bill to increase the legal age of marriage 21. And this show the prejudices about the efficacy of women. So these are all countries that have women heading their government, and although they are located in their different countries, the three countries seem to have managed the pandemic much neighbors much along the lines a detailed recent study research in the United States report and female governor related to death, perhaps partially because female governor acted more decisively. So there are criticism by pointing out the deficiency in data admitted or the econometric rigor analysis. Many will also point out the sweeping generalization based on the studies about the danger of making sweeping generalizations valid. Of course, studies such as this do not establish superiority of female. All female leaders are not necessarily efficient, and there are many men who are proved to most effective and charismatic leader. So, getting rid of inherent bias perception about female effectiveness in the leadership role, implementing the policy promote interest of women, demonstrate. Another study conducted the Nobel laureate co-author of Raga Bera Chattopadhyay's study of the amendment Indian Constitution, which mandated that all states had to reserve one-third of position of Pradhan for women. Chattopadhyay and Duflo concluded that the investor more in rural infrastructure, better needs of gender, drinking water, in addition to infrastructure importance, promotion, perspective, gender equality, right to vote is the most important for participation of public life, independent, rightly proud to achievement for the women's suffrage. So it's seems more able to bodied men when went away to battlefield during the First World War. The female representation of current National Democratic Alliance government center to probably not very far from the typical gender composition in India. So female member make up 10% of total ministerial strength. The under representation of female and Mamata Banerjee currently only under representation women in the 14% total strength of Lok Sabha. Rwanda comes 60% seats in the lower house for the women. So the bill presented Lok Sabha as the Devgowda times, and then although Rajya Sabha didn't pass the bill, Lok Sabha and state legislative yet to be passed the approval. but these are the problem. Hate speech, as we discussed yesterday, reaping demographic dividend. So this is also we discussed. Civil Service Code we discussed. IAS cadre rule we discussed. Need for shared parenting we will discuss now. Governance we discussed. Foreign fund, yeah, economy we should have to discuss now. Ministry of Home Affairs set the machinery of charity application for renewal of Foreign Contribution Act. Registration was rejected on December for not meeting the eligibility condition, and after some adverse input were received. So the registration of the Missionary of Charity Fund Mother Teresa in Kolkata under FCRA was valid up to October 31 but had been extended to 31 on December. Ministry of Home Affairs also said that it did not freeze any account of Missionary of Charity, but that the State Bank of India had informed it that organization itself sent a request to the bank to freeze its account, which Missionary of Charity confirmed. License of non-government organizations are routinely checked up and suspended if the Ministry of Home Affairs find any irregularity regarding the working of the country. The Foreign Contribution Act regulate foreign donation and ensure that such contributions do not adversely affect the internal security. First enacted, it was amended when a slew of new measures were adopted to regulate the foreign donation. FCRA is applicable to all associate group and NGO which intend to receive foreign donation. So NGO to register under FCRA initially valid for 5 years, renewed that subsequently if it comply with all the norm. Registered association can receive foreign contribution for social, education, religious purpose. Filing of annual return on the line of income tax is compulsory. Ministry of Home Affairs notified new rule which required NGO to give an undertaking that the accepting foreign fund is not likely to prejudicially affect the sovereignty and integrity of India, impact of friendly relation with any foreign state, and does not disrupt the communal harmony. So NGO would have to operate account in either national or private bank which have core banking facility. So why who cannot receive foreign donation? Member of legislature, political party, government official, judge, media person prohibited from receiving foreign contribution. And Ministry of Home Affairs Finance Bill rules amended repealed the FCRA law, paving the way for political party to receive fund from Indian subsidiary for a foreign company or foreign company where at least 50% more share. Is there any other way to receive foreign contribution? The other way to receive foreign contribution is by applying for prior permission. It is granted for receipt of specific amount from specific donor for carrying out specific activity. But the association should be registered under the statutes such as the Society Registration Act, Indian Trust Act, and Section 25 of Company Act. So a letter of commitment from the foreign donor specified the amount of purpose is to be required. Ministry of Home Affairs suspended FCRA Public Fund Foundation India, one of the India's largest public health advocacy ground, on ground of using foreign fund to lobby with parliamentarian of tobacco control activity. After several representation by the PHFI to government, it was placed under the prior permission of category. So where is the registration suspended or cancelled? Ministry of Home Affairs inspection account, and upon the receiving any adverse input against the functioning of association can suspend the FCRA. Till the time any decision is taken, the association cannot receive the fresh donation and cannot utilize the 25% of amount available in the designated bank. So Ministry of Home Affairs can cancel the registration of an organization which will not be eligible for the registration of prior permission. So Ministry of Home Affairs data is the registration of association were cancelled for violations such as misutilization of foreign contribution, non-submission of mandatory annual returns, and foreign funds. So it's flex fuel vehicle. The government has advised the car maker to start making flex fuel strong hybrid electric vehicle. Flex fuel vehicle is the capable running 100% petrol and 100% bioethanol combination of both. Flex fuel strong hybrid electric vehicle essentially house an electric motor power of vehicle alongside a traditional petrol engine. However, such vehicles are yet to be made widely available. But dual fuel vehicle means the engine use two fuel. Biofuel means engine could be either fuel separately, and flex fuel is the capable of running on either petrol or ethanol combination of both. So bioethanol consists of less energy per liter petrol. However, the calorific value will be become on the petrol with use of advanced technology. A liter of petrol sold in the India average 8% of ethanol, and even though oil marketing company have clearance 7% blending. So this is not to be the able to run the higher ethanol content 10%. Reduce import bill. India oil import bill stood 2060 to 2 billion, and the government is dispersed to bring down oil import bill and creating fuel substitute ethanol, hydrogen and electricity. Even if pushed till 20% blending, this is possible. Flex fuel vehicle. Paris climate commitment is the help to government meet the commitment come to the reducing the emission 50% lower in the two-wheeler and 30% lower in the four-wheeler. Hydrocarbon 20% lower. So fuel efficiency will be blending will result in drop in fuel efficiency 6 to 7%, and requirement of automobile parts. Auto parts are come into contact with the higher ethanol content have to be replaced with the compatible product to avoid corrosion. Because of change required the vehicle components, higher blending ethanol increase manufacturing cost vehicle. Nevertheless, automotive companies say ready to the 2025. Digital Bank. Niti Aayog's recent discussed paper titled Digital Bank, a proposal licensing regulatory regime for India. So floated the idea of setting up the full stack digital banks. Digital bank is the defined banking regulation act, and this entity will issue deposit, make loans, offer the full suite of service. Banking regulation act empower them, so they will principally rely not only physical branch but also internet and other proximate channels. So help overcome the financial inclusion challenge, help reduce the cost transaction. GM Trinity banking inequality will be reduced, help make India global leader. So there are what are the status of banking sector, like public sector bank, private sector, small finance, payment, regional, rural, local bank, and financial institution, urban cooperative bank, multi-state cooperative societies. So granting of digital business bank license, now Niti Aayog is doing this and granting the digital bank license after gaining experience as a former. So even digital business bank license recommend careful calibrate approach comprising the issue of restricted digital business. Regulatory sandbox framework will be in RBI, so it will suggest the full stack digital business bank license based upon the satisfactory performance of license, and it further suggests the minimum paid up capital for restricted digital business bank operating regulating sandbox. Illustrate upon the progression from the sandbox into the final stage. Full stack digital business bank will be required the 200 crore. So RBI experience with the private sector bank licensing over the past isn't all rosy, given RBI had to step into content damage private sector bank. So RBI bank under the repair PCA framework, it has not said anything about the efficacy of the various other banking category. Some of the banking category as well as the older license category is the until legislation get up regulation has to adapt and ensure that the financial system digital innovation and disruption will not be there. Out ownership of bank global regulation and raise the liability pool. It will turn consumer protection everything related to cyber security digital data and enable the large capital base not allow the work banks so themselves to consumer communication where many new fintechs new bank. The Devas arbitration. So Devas shareholders said that has been won an order allowing 30 million worth of property Air India and Airport Authority of India Canadian Concord order to connection with the arbitration award. India government both India and sought to quashing order reserve its decision. A court Canada has ordered seizure of amount collected by the International Air Transport Association, and this is latest attempt to Devas shareholder to enforce arbitration international tribunal after India cancelled Devas Antrix deal. So Devas has moved to the stage 17 million of ticketing and fuel collected on the behalf of Air India, Air Navigation and Aerodrome charge international airlines to AAI. Telecommunication firm Devas Multimedia signed to contract with the Antrix. Under the Antrix would build and launch the ISRO satellite and lease the corresponding S-band satellite spectrum to Devas. Following the CAG audit report that pointed to the number of potential irregularity in the deal, including the alleged financial mismanagement, violation standard operating the procedure of UPA government and consulting the Antrix Devas deal And final cake report when number of other panel did not find any evidence quite pure bribery. Question has also been the calculation of cake Antrix Deval deal, satellite spectrum, telecom spectrum. Why have Devas sought to attach AAI and Air India asset overseas? After Devas Antrix deal was cancelled, Devas Multimedia Private Limited and shareholder won the 3 Contribution Award International Tribunal. India has not paid any money yet. Challenges to award multiple times. Devas say that BJP government agreed to negotiate global financial statement but walk away until India return to the negotiation table and its move against the India asset globally. So first award International Chamber for Commerce and Tribunal seated New Delhi anonymously Antrix country to deal with the Devas and ISRO commercial arm Antrix has filed a petition at ICC award which currently under adjudication of Delhi High Court. Permanent Court of Arbitration alleging violation of obligation to protect their interest. India Mauritius bilateral investment treaty and tribunal cited The Hague found India liable for breaching of obligation and tribunal awarded Devas shareholder over 111 million plus interest. So a third arbitration was the shareholder Devas and under India Germany bilateral investment treaty was meanwhile it's a Antrix the national company law tribunal ordered bidding up the Devas ground of being fraudulent which was the national company law tribunal also have Antrix Devas agreement or illegal. Devas have moved to the Supreme Court appeal to are pending. So what are the Air India sale of Tata? Devas moved to the Air India comes just week between the Tata Sun. It's set up the take over the airlines. However, the events are Canada and unlikely to hamper the transfer of airlines as a Tata Sons and granted the indemnity. So tax terrorism and bilateral treatment. GST reform needs new grand bargain. So 46th meeting of GST country, the finance minister several state pre-budget interaction with the Union Finance Minister and demanded GST compensation scheme. 3 years ago, the Center State Union Stake Grand Bargain resulting launched the Unified Goods and Service Tax and the state gave up their right to collect certain tax and center gave the excise and service tax. So nationwide GST promised the frictionless commerce across the state border and buoyant and the leakpool tax compliance and the removal of inefficiency like the cascade of tax and this historic grand bargain was the result of painstaking consensus building which inter alia addressing the state revenue loss due to the GST. State consent was secured by promise reimbursing any shortfall in tax revenue for the 5 year. The reimbursement was to funded by the special cess called the GST compensation cess. The promised reimbursement was to fill the gap of an 14% an year of tax growth 5 year. As the economy battled pandemic and recession, tax collection are dropped significantly by expenditure needs and sharply higher special at the front line. But fourth major clause of commercial country, the center bearing responsibility of making up shortfall 14%. So first state do not have encouraged to multiple option of center has such as issue of sovereign bond or a loan against the public sector using share the Reserve Bank of India. Second, center can anyway command much lower rates of borrowing from the market. And third, aggregate public sector borrowing does not matter for the debt market nor the agency whether it's state or center that are increasing the indebtedness. Fourth, fighting the recession through the increasing fiscal stimulus, job, macroeconomic stabilization, and trust built up between the center and state. So, Kautilya too would have advised the sovereign against the re-engaging on the promised bailout or fulfilling the obligation help build trust with sub-sovereign. GST compensation strategies chart the latest pump 3 year journey for new tax design. It is clear that the design needs radical overhaul. Thinking compensation mechanism frequent changing the rate slab or pushing more goods and syntax says category to earn the revenue that is not shareable state is forward. So a compensation is the consent share GST anniversary with India and for GST rates has been constant 10%. Of course, India single state weight able surcharge on the small list in goods by allowing state weightable surcharge polluting goods such as sport utility vehicle and industrial fuel such as diesel, aviation, turbine fuel and coal. A low moderate single rate 12% encourage better compliance, reduce the need of arbitration and reduce the litigation will leads to buoyancy in the collection. Incidentally, this redesign will scrupulously avoid the bogey of revenue neutral rate which needlessly occupied the attention of lawmaker and official. GST is long-term structural reform, short-term and basically an elusive concept. In the long term, there is many changes in the consumption pattern, production, configuration, location which cannot be anticipated and hence a static concept of the conference. The commitment of low and stable rate as Australia and many other federal democracies, it is must of course compensation come reimbursement incentive can remain but more in nature of what was done with harmonizing. This new grand bargain must recognize the increasing importance of third tier government and 73-74 constituent the local government do not have the promised transfer of fund function and functionary. This local body are increase the responsibility of providing the government service, especially the increased urbanization and decentralization, and 12% 10% should be equally shared between the state and center. 2% must be exclusively urban and local body which ensure the basic revenue and actual distribution across the panchayat and would be given the respective state finance commission. GST commission is thus every citizen every establish the link between the government and the quality of government improve the also tax base in better aligning with the responsibility of every government also need zero tax export crucial long-term structural reform and strike right and desired balance. Cooperative federalism enhance economic growth and the current design and implementation failed to deliver the promise. Planetary pressure of adjusted HDI. Human Development Reports, UNDP, Next Frontier, Human Development and Anthropopause Planetary Pressure Adjusted Human Development Index is the took HDI derived vision for the Mahmood articulated Amartya Sen adjustment such as inequality adjustment HDI. Besides, there are computation of several other indices gender development, gender inequality, multidimensional poverty. So environment is one of the now planetary pressure adjusted PHDI. Planetary pressure adjusted HDI is essential component to factor to measure human development. Concept of planetary boundary introduced the group of scientists across the world and human induced environment changes and database to long-term dynamic earth system. Both global and local evidence indicate biodiversity loss, climate change, landscape disruption of biochemical cycle, scarcity of water, vulnerability of the society, communicate to larger society risk involved and existing practice in our resources use and environment management and effects of environment states. So when planetary pressure is adjusted, the world average HDI down from 0.732 to 0.68. The adjustment has been worked out the affecting the capital carbon dioxide emission and the capita footprint. So its average per capita CO2 emission 4.6 ton and per capita material footprint 12.3 ton. The global ranking of the several country was altered positive negative sense. Switzerland the only country is the group of human development country. So change the adjustment of planetary pressure among the 66 high human development country, 30 country recorded fall in the rank. It successfully bring out the nature of the planetary pressure and general for development. So India gained the global ranking in the 8 points like 131 under the HDI, 123 under the PHDI. And India is the natural resources use the efficient environment problem growing and nature goes unable. So it's 27 people is a multi-division poverty index and 1.10 in the Kerala and 52% in the Bihar. Twin challenge of poverty elevation environment safeguarding for Prime Minister Indira Gandhi first articulated lecture Stockholm Conference in 1922. And next human development including social economic system and ecosystem and integrated perspective is also necessary. National Education Alliance for Technology scheme NEET scheme is a first of kind government scheme so finally taken shape bringing course offered to the group of edtech platform within the reach of the college and university students socio-economic disadvantage. National Education Alliance for Technology is being implemented All India Council to Technical Education AICTE aim to act a bridge between the edtech companies and academic institution student initiative taken. The government noted that learning tool developed by the edtech platform can supplement classroom teaching needs to be made more accessible. Accordingly, it was proposed that portal be created where edtech platform can be roped in the display their products after the shortlisting process. So the portal NEET is the has separate section listing products for student and educational institution. So far, government has roped 58 edtech company. The company was shortlisted by independent expert committee, leaving no room for favoritism. Under the business to business segment of portal, courses are on the offer for the higher education and business to customer section. Eligible student can browse those choose from, and the course range from the accounting, finance, coding, including the advanced programming and basic objective schemes to make a student from disadvantaged background aware of availability of opportunity, help them learn new skills. And ACTI is reached out to higher education institutions across the country, directing them to inform students about the portal and role-based needs of the consent. And edtech platform is the change the fee and the policy order to government has mandated every shortlisted company will have to offer free coupon 25% total registration of NEET portal and 12 lakh free coupon are, and it now distributing those coupon among the student SC, ST, OBC, EWS category, and use of AI tool to pick student caste, income, gender, age, and older student and women have been given the main at a state-wise break of total 4.12 lakh free coupon being distributed among the student. So it's a C, C++, Java programming, data science, life science, healthcare service, including all this. Predatory pricing by new age companies. So recently, people in the small town in Nandurbar district, Maharashtra, could not buy Colgate toothpaste from their only local store. It was because distributor in Nandurbar district had decided to boycott Colgate product and not supply them to Kirana store in Talode. So why did distributor decided to boycott Colgate product? Nearly 500,000 of India distribution pick up goods from the consumer companies such as Colgate delivery them 30 million small local stores and villages town across the country through a web million of trader and other intermediaries. A vast majority of these distributor and trader are small family business that have developed a relationship with their local stores over many decades. All consumer goods distribution in Maharashtra were protecting against the Colgate alleged the unfair treatment of traditional distribution technology companies such as Reliance, JioMart, Udaan, and others. And the Kirana store generally sells 100 tubes of Colgate toothpaste to the consumer 55. The maximum retail price the distributor Colgate toothpaste 45 and manufacturer Colgate sale is to distributor 40. So new age technology business to business company have developed technology to connect directly to Kirana store, bypassing the intermediary. Business to business company supply Colgate toothpaste to the local store 35 lower than 45 charge, and these technology company bear a 15 to 20% loss in every Colgate toothpaste, and they deliberately offer their product to the price lower than what it's cost. The predatory pricing local store away from the traditional distributor. Further, this technology company offer expensive credit term. So in order to work, the technology company rely not just on the mobile phone app innovation but steep price discounting and cheaper financing. So Udaan has suffered total losses more than 5,000 crore, and India's company are able to absorb such heavy losses because of have access to the copious amount of money. And this company are flush with the funds from the foreign venture capital firm, which is shown as largely funded the American pension fund and university endowment. So these are companies use the money to not only build new technology but also undercut the competition of steel market and destroy incumbent and gain dominant market share. So the flip side is that India million of distributor intermediaries have no access to such finance. So the issues illegal predatory pricing and abuse of pricing power are startup and big corporate through preferential access to easy foreign money. So while consumer may benefit from lower price, should have livelihood of million of distributor trader and families suffer because of they do not have equal access to the easy money and technology. By some estimates, there are more than 20 million families in India whose livelihood depends on intermediary law in the consumer goods and supply chains, and the distributor, trader, and the kirana store are generally belong to the same local community. Surely there will be social ramification within the community. For some of them, family lost their livelihood, and the conventional economic notion was price regardless the mean adopted are soul of worthy pursuit of under challenges. Social media are the Facebook giveaway product for the free and e-commerce company social strife and disharmony. So the company Free Capital from now question about social implication. The new chairperson of the Federal Trade Commission is seeking to frame new rules to check the anti-competitive behavior. Trickle-down wage analyzing Indian inequality from the gender lens. The pandemic has exposed and fed the profound socio-economic inequality, gender-based discrimination. Important dimension of socio-economic inequality is economic outcome of women. Women are 10% more likely to be living in the extreme poverty and compared to the UN Women Report. So the pandemic has disrupted the already skewed ratio in the educational opportunity, access to finance, wage disparity, and other social constraints for them. So gender inequality is the one of the oldest and most pervasive form of inequality of the world and results social economic impact on COVID-19. In India, number of states 80% of the among is lower India Asian 27% ahead of Pakistan and Afghanistan. And World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap report India amongst the country largest gender gap in the economic participation opportunity due to observed declining trend of 27% in female labor force participation. Azim Premji during the lockdown months after 61% of men remain employed and only 7% lost employment and 19% women remain unemployed and 47% suffer permanent job loss. And the imposition of lockdown has affected the feministic sector such as the care economy and the gig economy such severely the sector with the men are represented. Global gender gap reports labor market scarring in which temporary limitation of in-person work have caused permanent and long-lasting effect women chance. So according to inequality, while women represent 15% of population, only one-third of labor income. So those who do step into the workforce offer work in the informal sector, which categorically provide the no protection to the labor law or social benefits to the pension and paid sick maternity leave. Informal sector really provides the reliance against the market fluctuations and poverty altogether vary the potentially entering the workforce while the men move to the informal worker during the lack of better opportunity. Women work for altogether due to increase the burden of household acute lack of safety. So various practice discretionary policy and social structure lack of access to lucrative jobs and labor market and double bind of performing both paid and unpaid labor. So adequate focus on policy change, leaving behind a half of population road of recovery and enhance the social security mechanism, adopt a care lens and upskilling the women, gender sensitive fiscal policy, educate the masses, framework for labor laws is needs. India challenged WTO verdict on sugar. So India has filed an appeal with the appellate body of World Trade Organization verdict settlement panel on sugar subsidy. WTO dispute settlement panel had ruled that India by subsidizing sugar produce was breaking rules frame under the General Agreement of Tariff and Trade, which govern international trade. India is the second largest sugar producer in the world and Brazil, and it's estimated more than 5 crore people depends on cultivation of sugarcane. In the Australia, Brazil, Guatemala compiled against the India WTO arguing subsidy offered by the Indian government to sugar product were against the rules governing international trade. They argued that subsidy, which include the both domestic as well as the export subsidy, exceed the limit imposed WTO trade rules. According to WTO, subsidy cannot exceed 10% of total value of sugar production, and these countries believe that subsidy offered by the India has led to increased production of sugar and caused the price of sugar to drop significantly in the global market. After 2 years, the WTO ruled in December that India's sugar policy was favoring domestic producers through subsidy to entertainment foreign producers. The panel recommended that India withdraw its alleged prohibited subsidy under the production assistance, the buffer stock, and the marketing and transportation scheme within 120 days. So India has stated the WTO dispute panel ruling that made certain erroneous finding about the domestic scheme to support sugarcane producer and export, and the finding of the panel completely unacceptable. So India has argued WTO does not offer direct subsidy to sugarcane farmer and thus doesn't break any international trade rule. Argument, however, has not convinced other countries who are point out that among the things that center has state government in India mandate the minimum price at which sugar mill can buy the sugarcane. So the high procurement price for the sugarcane set by the government is believed to have led to increased supply, and to help the sugar sector, the center has even mandated the compulsory blending of ethanol, and center also regulatory sanction fund to encourage the sugar mill to export the sugar. In the budget last year, Centre allocated 3,500 crore rupees. The WTO appellate body decision will be considered final and dispute. In the case of India refuse to comply with decision, it might have to face a retaliatory action from the other country, and this could be form of additional tariff on Indian export and stringent measures. So such retaliatory measures may benefit the products in their country, but affects of consumer who have enjoyed lower sugar price due to subsidies. It should be WTO was founded prevent exactly tit for tat tariff shrink international trade, and incidentally appellate body WTO is not functioning because of difference among the member country. Towards the complete capital convertibility process of capital convertibility is likely to receive the further push this year. Government and RBI move toward the growing greater foreign participation in the bond market. The balance of payment account, which is the statement all transaction made between the country and the rest of the world, consists two account. Current account deals with the import and export of goods and service. Capital account is made the cross-border movement of capital by way of investment and loan. So capital account convertibility, freedom of conduct investment transaction without any constraint. In other words, capital account converted means the no restriction amount of rupee an Indian resident can convert into foreign currency to enable the acquired any foreign asset. So similarly, there should be no restraint on the NRI relative bringing in any amount of foreign currency acquired the asset in India. How the capital account convertible involved? Input, India adopted the path of economic liberalization. Narasimhan Committee within the 5 years the country had moved to the market determined exchange rate and full current account convertibility. So this also market and beginning of the process of liberalizing capital account in the 3 decades since liberalization began. Progress on this aspect has remained gradual. While the current position partially opened the capital account on resident essentially have opened the freedom to engage in most investment and other capital transaction. Capital account convertibility mostly been a single direction with the more flexibility in flow and outflow. Foreign Exchange Management Act further liberalized current account and to some extent capital account transaction, albeit maintaining the strong control over the latter. Gradually, foreign investors have been allowed the participation in domestic equity, debt and bond market, and largely in its impact the past 5 years FDI have account for 15% of FDI. Foreign portfolio investment have also been actively equity, GSEC market and 10 billion offering of the Indian firm. According to latest data, Indian international investment position direct overseas investment total 200 billion. So a liberalization capital account has been considered for business cycle in past 2 decades, and this suggests the institutional capacity political may achieve the capital account convertibility. Tarapur Committee gross fiscal deficit 3.5%, GDP inflation 3 to 5%, effective CRR 3%, gross NPA less than 5%. India has yet to fully meet all these criteria. So inflow of outflow of the foreign and domestic capital, which are prone to the volatility, can lead to excessive appreciation depreciation of currency, impact monetary and financial stability. And Tarapur Committee reports fuller capital account contemporarily released argued that even country has comfortable fiscal position, currency crisis and rapid deterioration of the exchange rate. So the report further point out the excessive appreciation of the exchange rate caused the exporting industry become the unviable and import become the much more competitive. So current account deficits worsen. However, there is been an improvement in the economy. India foreign reserve today 365 billion and fourth largest in the world. So large foreign exchange reserve leads to the high sterilization cost. Estimated sterilization coefficient if the control is what or India's sterilization cost is capital account. So free up 1% of GDP sterilization cost. Sterilization is the form monetary action which central banks seek to limit the effect of inflow and outflow of capital. power next stage of Indian economic development, limiting the sovereign debt 6% of GDP, encasing and RBI governor had been questioned time again, calling for convertibility as a process. Thus, process toward the full convertibility will not be linear, and India looks set to continue moving gradually. RBI can bank India current account strength and macro stability to further curb capital account convertibility, growth and fiscal consolidation. NSO is released the first advanced national account estimates. India real GDP is estimated 9.2% and 30 basis point lower than the projection of RBI IMF projection 9.5%. So due to the three waves of COVID-19 experience, 2 years of real growth of economic activity have been wiped out and economy have to now start clean state. So adverse effect of third wave of COVID-19, which is mainly affecting the last quarter and further downwards the adjustment growth of 9%. The main sector of have held a more robust recovery, trade, transport and private final consumption expenditure on the demand sides. So growth would be continue to be supply side bottlenecks and IMF OECD growth 8.5 to 8.1%, saving investment rate economy. The gross fixed capital investment rate currently 29%. The implicit price deflector inflation is 7.7% and nominal GDP growth is 12 to 13% and the fiscal deficit budget level 6.8% of GDP. Tax buoyancy is efficiency, responsiveness of revenue mobilization, response to growth and gross domestic product. National income tax is buoyant if tax revenue increase. So the major corporate income tax is reforms is provided and 15% fresh investment, manufacturing and domestic company provided production. In nearly 2 years, COVID-19 government may consider extending the time limit for availing the CIT reforms. GST compensation should be there. GST Council extending the compensation time periods of COVID-19. A national monetization pipeline will be extended to cover the monetization of the government. Urban counterpart Manrega may be considered support some sectors and signaling to return to the fiscal consolidation, reviving the both consumption and investment demand. Now next one is what it is. Next question is about the controlling the subsidy bill. So between the 2015 to 20, the aggregate outlay of food and fertilizer subsidy fell both in absolute term and in share of the center total expenditure, like before 11% to 7%. So further drop in the 6.1% projected budget. So what declining trends and has however since completely reversed. So the combined food and fertilizer subsidy bill in the revised estimate was massive 556 and 565 crore, 16.1% of center entire budget. So we can see center spending on the subsidy 2013 it's all 10%, then 11, 11, 8, 7, 7, 6, 16 and 9. So it's like changing, sometimes increasing, sometimes decreasing. The first is with the center not providing fully for the subsidy, raising the FCI subsidy and fertilizer farm selling nutrient at below cost to farmers. So in the case of food, center wasn't fully funding the difference between FCI economic cost and its average issue price multiplied by the quantity sold. So FCI economic costs include cost of producing, handling, transporting, distributing, storing gains. To bridge the gap, FCI had to borrow heavily, especially from the National Small Saving Funds 7.74 and 8.8%. FCI borrow from NSS growth extended the food subsidy, and similarly fertilizer sector the industry was around 48 crore rupees. Now it's like funding is 14,000, 27,000, 46,000, 68,000. So but the revised estimate ministry allocation an additional rate towards the food and fertilizer subsidy. And the second source of overshooting has been COVID and international prices have been increased post COVID crisis. Also procure unprecedented quality of grains, 5 per kg is the grains, and Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana apart from the 5 kg quota for wheat 2 and 3 respectively, and wheat was sold through the PDS system. A similar offshooting was pending and expected to fertilizer subsidy, primarily reason global price rise. Now hiking the prices, capping up grain procurement, decontrolling urea, providing a fixed per ton nutrient based subsidy similar to that of the fertilizer subsidy. Now unlock India food processing potential. So the challenges to feed the 10 billion population midday mid-century being celebrated several fronts. Its demand-efficient way production that both economically viable and ecologically sustainable. Further, the technology are emerging that revamp the traditional approach of agriculture, lower environmental footprints. Being one of the largest producers of fruits and vegetables, India has formulated unique production-linked incentive scheme boost processed food in large quantity. The scheme incentive from increment, sale, branding, and marketing. Export market sell promotion positively led to increase the sale volume, inversely related to the profitability. To bridge the gap between the government provides support for branding and marketing. Now 10,900 crore is the while applying the scheme. So concentrate on the Arunachal Pradesh, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu is the highest investment states. And pandemic impact the food processing sector, demand for ready to eat products and consumer awareness of functional food, which is the expected to provide boost for health oriented startup and micro food processing unit. Address the assess capital like MSME sector problem of the country, lack of proper credit and smart financing, alternate peer to peer lendings, micro food process reform in trades platform considerable scaling up the simultaneous enforcement stringent measures for this trades platform for goods and service network involving the portal which stays attractive gives to relief to the finance international collaboration with population changing foods habits and nutrient must together lay out the roadmap for the common efficient food value chain, promote the innovation in both foods products and the process, needs to replace the staple rice wheats and nutri cereal and plants based protein. So next is India economy and the challenge of informality. Despite the witnessing rapid economic growth over the 2 decades, 90% worker in India has remained informal, unemployed and producing about GDP. Formal jobs as per the India official definition providing at least one social security benefits. So officially the 75% informal workers, self-employed, casual wage worker which average earning lower than the regular salary worker. About the half of the informal worker are engaged in the non-agriculture sector. And early in attempt to promote the employment protected small enterprises, labor-intensive manufacturing by providing them fiscal concession, regulation, large-scale industry and licensing. So inefficiency such measures led to the labor-intensive industry getting diffused into the informal unorganized sector and subcontracting and outsourcing arrangement, textile industry is sector handloom in the unorganized sector and illustrate the policy initiative for bringing the enterprises tax net thriving without paying the tax and informal sector what remains like low productivity establishment of the household self-employment unit like currently demonetization introduced goods and service tax digitalization enrollment or involvement informal sector and the numerous government portal formal sector and the more productive and also it established the formal worker as social security benefits. Pandemic have reversed the progress formalization and research SBI recently reported economic formalized rapidly during the pandemic. GDP share shrinking less than 20%. Now, excessive state regulation of enterprises and labor, high taxation is what are the problem for the informal sector? Excessive state regulation, high taxation, informality is also a outcome of structural historical factor of economic backwardness. Studies show that informality decrease the economic growth, albeit slowly, and in many parts of the developing world including India, has reduced at the very slow pace and manifesting itself urban slum poverty, simplifying the registration process, easing the rule business conduct and lowering the standard, protecting the formal sector, bring information and their worker into the fold of formality. Also, economy will be formalized, informal enterprises, greater capital investment, increase education, skill implementation, the labor law. Understanding the budget formulation, how budget formulates. With the economy still hurting from the pandemic, budget is likely to address the concern expenditure, receipt, deficit indicator. Capital expenditure is the incurred purpose of increasing assets and durable nature of the reducing the recurring liabilities. So constructing new school, new hospital. Revenue expenditure involve the expenditure that does not add the asset or reduce liability. So, salary, subsidy, interest payments are that. Depending on the manner in which the effects sector expenditures also classified. General service, economic service include the expenditure, transport, communication, rural development, agriculture. Let's say social service are like expenditure, social services, education, health, grant and nets contribution. The sum of expenditure and economic social service together form development expenditure, and depending on effects of assets creation, liability reductions, and development expenditure can further classified revenue and capital. So revenue receipts are involved receipts that are not associated with increase in liability and comprise revenue from tax and non-tax sources. Non-debt receipts are the part of capital receipts that do not generate additional liability, recovery of loans and proceeds for disinvestment. And debt creating capital receipts on the other higher liability involve higher liability, capital receipts, and further future payments commitment of government. Fiscal deficit defining the difference between the total expenditure, sum of the revenue received and non-debt receipt. The fiscal deficit indicate total borrowing of the government. Primary deficit difference between fiscal deficit and interest payment. Revenue deficit involves deducting the capital expenditure from the fiscal deficit. Capital expenditure from the fiscal deficit. What are the implications of the budget in the economy? The budget has implication aggregate demand for the economy. All government expenditure generates aggregate demand economy since involve purchase private goods service. All tax and non-tax revenue reduce net income of private sector and thereby leads to reduction in private and aggregate demand. So reduction expenditure GDP ratio increase the revenue received GDP and indicate the government policy reduce the aggregate demand. Similar reason reduction fiscal deficit ratio and primary deficit ratio indicate the government policy reducing the demand and vice versa. Implication for the income distribution, for the example, revenue expenditure such as employment guarantee program, food subsidy directly boost the income and of the poor. Concession and corporate tax may directly positively affect the corporate sector, and through both the rise in expenditure for employment guarantee scheme and corporate tax reduction will widen the fiscal deficit implication. So fiscal rules provide the specific policy targets based on fiscal policy forms. N.K. Singh committee reports maintaining the specific level of GDP debt to GDP ratio is target, fiscal deficit flow target, and revenue deficit GDP ratio composition target. So both the expenditure revenues should potentially act as a policy instrument and tax rate within the existing policy framework happen to determine the independent of the expenditure requirement. So in the present institution framework, India is primarily expanded with this adjust to meet the fiscal rules and give the tax ratio such as the adjustment mechanism and at least the related but analytical district implement fiscal policy. So existing fiscal rule provides the cap of expenditure imposing C policy. Second, the situation debt ratio deficit ratio is greater than the targeted level. So independent state of economy needs to be expansionary fiscal policy. Existing policy target leads to government to reduce expenditure, and it is in education fiscal policy address the contemporary challenge of unemployment and lower growth. The nature of objective fiscal rules in India would be the re-examine. Next we will discuss next its last topic actually. After that is environment. Okay. So DLI scheme and the chip making industry. India has invited application from 100 domestic companies, startup, small and medium enterprises to become a part of Design Link Incentive Scheme (DLI) Design Link Incentive Scheme. So IT Ministry sought to proposal from academia, startup, MSME to train 85 qualified engineer on semiconductor design manufacturing. It is estimated that semiconductor industry is growing fast in $1 trillion, and India can grow the 64 billion by 2026 and 27 billion today. Mobile, wireless, IT, industrial component leading segment in the semiconductor industry 85 revenue, and the mobile wireless segment will be 13 billions. So the DLI schemes provide a financial infrastructure support to the company setting up fab and semiconductor making the plants, offer support to the 50% of the total cost of eligible participant, and support 30% capital expenditure to participate building compound semiconductor, silicon, photonics, sensor fabrication plants. And under this scheme 4 to 6% net sale will be provided for the 5 year to company semiconductor design integrated circuits, chipset, system of chips, system of IP cores, and expected to facilitate growth in 20 such company and achieve the turnover 15,100 crore rupees. Sudden increase in demand of chip and semiconductor component has enhanced the needs to establish a robust semiconductor ecosystem. Several sectors introduced the auto, telecom, and medical technology due to the scarcity of chips and manufacturing. So to avoid the high deficiency of the new country, so new company will help in meeting the domestic demands and encourage the innovation. Attract the existing global player, will support their expenditure related design software, IP rights and development testing and deployments. It is because they bring India the MAP semiconductor manufacturing. Currently, semiconductor manufacturing dominated by a company US, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Israel, and Netherlands. They also making the effort solving the chips shortage. And US President Biden bring manufacturing back America, reduce the country reliance on small number of chip makers based on Taiwan and South Korea. And the European Commission also announced the Public-Private Semiconductor Alliance goal to increasing the Europe chip production 20% by 30. And South Korea offered the incentive for 50 billion. And India's 90% global companies are already R&D design center semiconductor but established the fabrication unit. Although India's semiconductor fab Mohali, Bangalore, they are purely strategic defense space application only. Capital incentive needs to investment in 5 billion to 10 billion. Lack of investment, supportive government policy, some of the challenges. So infrastructure like connectivity, airport, seaport, availability of gallon of pure water are some of the challenges. And design link incentive scheme along with the recent production link incentive scheme have become the crucial shaping efficient, equitable, resilient design manufacturing hub. This was all about